જય જય રામ ઓમ શ્રી રામ જય રામ 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 જય જય શ્રી રામ જય રામ જય જય રામ ઓમ 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 જય જય રામ ઓમ શ્રી રામ જય રામ 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 Jai Jai Rama Om. Om Shri Ram Jai Rama Jai Jai Rama Om. Shri Ram Jai Rama Jai Jai Rama Om. Om Shri Ram Jai Rama Jai Jai Rama Om. Om Shri Ram Jai Rama Jai Jai Rama Om. 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 Om Shri Ram Jai Ram Jai Jai Ram. Hari Om to everybody. Here it is very heavily raining, and because of that the line is off. So we are unable to read. One devotee wanted us to read the portion of Uddhava meeting the Gopis. We will, yeah. Because yesterday, Papa made a reference about Gopis' love. It is better to have a it is better to have a recap of what was read, what was gone through yesterday. In Papa's article, you remember 3 things. What were they? I don't know how to put this. But
you can't hear if you put this. You can't hear.
Oh.
1 second.
I will hear, through this.
Through this you can. I thought that black one.
Swamiji, it is removed. The tree is completely removed.
Hari Om. I don't know.
Hari Om, you say Hari Om?
Hari Om. Hari Om. Hari Om. Oh. If so many people are talking, I will not be able to. Okay. So yesterday when Papa was making a mention about bhakti, acme of bhakti, you remember 3 things he wanted. Satsang, Eh? Ah. Sattvic, solitude and sattvic diet. And then, anything else you remember? Ananya Bhakti. Spending about 2 or 3 hours in a day is not Bhakti. Bhakti means ceaseless remembrance of Him. And ceaseless remembrance, Mata Amritanandamayi quotes, "O Lord, we should keep on praying, O Lord, you should, you, O Lord, you will shine in all my, in and through my,
Actions. All my
you will shine in and through my every action, all activities. That means constantly, every thought, every word, every deed. At the moment, it's an ideal. None of us can do that. But we will keep it as an ideal to reach. Though not in full, 10%, 25%, 30%, 50%, like that we will move. It may not be possible for us to straight away bring the dimension in all that we talk, in all that we think, in all that we do. But that is the ideal we have to keep. And then, anything else? Mataji said that normally when we say bhakti towards a Nishtadevada, a chosen deity, it will be centered on a form. But in Papa's case, it was not centered on a particular form. It was centered on the whole universe. The whole universe is taken as an entity. And that was his Ishtadevada. Normally we say it is nirgun, but it is not nirgun. It is nirgun, at the same time it is sagun. Without the creator, the creation cannot come. Creation, only through the creation we become aware of the creator. So both are interlinked. Both are interlinked. That is why Papa used to say, to love all is the true bhakti of God, and to serve all is the real worship of God. I think because of the heavy rain and the lightning, we will stop for a few minutes. Let us see how it shakes, because we don't know whether the modem itself will be damaged. Okay? You may all chant Ram Nam there. We will also chant Ram Nam. Let us wait for another 10 or 15 minutes. If by the time... Okay. Hari Om. Switch off, Modem may go,
Modem is not there.
Eh?
There is no modem.
Then how do you do that?
Direct.
It also can be,
Off is, shall I switch off? Shall we
should
come
off.
out, Swamiji?
You come out.
Good.
Rain is all right. Lightning.
Yes. Yes, we came out. We are not using that.
Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram Om. Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram Om. Switch off that. Where the modem we don't know.
The office.
Telephone from. Who is there?
Chandrama always there.
Office are there.
Already is Shabda. That is already done. Here it is
Don't
done.
then go.
Here already done.
Om Sri Ram Jai Ram Jai Jai Ram Om Sri Ram Jai Ram Jai Jai Ram Om Ram Jai Ram Jai Jai Ram Om Sri Ram Jai Ram Jai Jai Ram Om Ram Jai Ram Jai Jai Ram Om Sri Ram Jai Ram Jai Jai Ram Om Jai Jai Ram Om Sri Ram Jai Ram Jai Jai Ram Om Sri Ram Jai Ram Jai Jai Ram Om Sri Ram Jai Ram Jai Om Sri Ram Jai Ram Jai Jai Ram Om Sri Ram Jai Ram Ram, Jai Jai Ram, Om Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram, Om Om Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram, Om Om Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram, Om Om Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram, Om Om Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram, Om Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram, Om Shri Ram. We'll make a trial.
One second from connected.
Is it heavily raining outside?
Not heavy one. Just only thunder is more. Rain is less.
Thunder is more. Hari Om. Hari Om.
1 second, Swamiji. Our audio is off. Yes. Hari Om. Yes, sir. Now you can say something.
You can hear? Okay, let us try. It is still raining. So Uddhava, we were making a mention about 2-3 things which we covered yesterday. We were trying to understand the real theme of bhakti, real form of bhakti. Our bhakti, we have understood bhakti or we have interpreted bhakti. When we go to when we go to the temple, we see the
They are all on audios. Many are audios.
when we go to a temple, we see the murti For hardly 5 minutes, we are standing there, then the other people will come. We bow down, we offer, we make a protection, we buy some prasadam, and then we get back. For having the darshan, probably we may be waiting for half an hour, 1 hour, 2 hours. And at that time also we are not chanting or trying to remember him. So many thoughts will be passing through our mind. Once in a way we will also be looking at the entrance. And when we come back, we feel, it's called sentimental or emotional level satisfaction. The impact of which will be there, not much. Similarly, when we attend a satsang, when we attend a discourse program, we say it was wonderful. But the real thing is whether we have been able to absorb it or assimilate it, whether it has had any deep impact in our thoughts, words and deeds. That is why here it is defined that every moment, whatever we think, whatever we talk, whatever we do, should have the stamp of the dimension, God dimension. So yesterday it was emphasized. So we will all now try as best as possible. 10%, 25%, 50% like that. In one go we may not be able to reach the highest. But still, now that we have been told, we have been made known what real bhakti is, we will try our level best. It means what? The first stage will be none of our thoughts, words and deeds will be detrimental to the interest of others. Atmano mokshartam jagat hidayata. Not only that we try to liberate us from the clutches of all these, but also whatever we do should be beneficial for others. This Upanishadic word is often quoted by Swami Vivekananda. Atmano mokshartam jagat hitayata. Both should go simultaneously. So when we are pining, when we are craving to have his darshan, at the same time he is there in front of us in the form of the creation. That we should know. That is being clarified by Uddhava. When he went to Gokul, seeing Uddhava, they fell back. Who? Gopis. He has come, the Lord of our hearts has come. They thought, Lord Krishna has come. Then realizing that he was a messenger from their beloved, they went close to him, forgetful of their womanly modesty, unmindful of the fact that he was a stranger whom they had never before met. They caught hold of his hand, tugged at his upper garment, pelted him with questions. Uddhava laughingly warded them off, though inwardly he was quite shocked. Never in all his well-regulated life had he come across such shameless behavior in women. It often happens everywhere. How could he comfort them? He wondered. He was rescued from his predicament by Nanda and Yashoda, who took him to their home and honored him as if he were Krishna himself. After he had rested and eaten, Nanda asked him, "O Uddhava, does Krishna still remember the people?" This dialogue is very important for all of us. We are used to this deity-based devotion. So how to transcend or how to transform the deity-based devotion to the real devotion? That is really answered by Uddhava here. So Nanda asked him, "O Uddhava, does Krishna still remember the people of Gokul?" Does he remember his poor parents, his friends, the cows, the hills, the deities of Vrindavan? Will he ever come back to look up his old comrades? We have been saved from many a danger by his grace. Every spot is filled with memories relating to him. Every spot here is filled with memories relating to him. We can hardly attend to our normal duties these days, for our minds are totally absorbed in thinking of him and his exploits while he lived with us. As he was reminiscing like this, both he and Yashoda were overcome with emotion and could hardly speak. Their tears flowed and they remained silent and absorbed in him. Uddhava marveled at this state of devotion and spoke to them thus. This is very important for all of us. O great ones, you are the most praiseworthy among all mankind, for your minds are firmly fixed on Krishna, who is none other than the Supreme Lord Narayana. He is the soul of all and the cause of all, who has assumed a human form for the fulfillment of certain purposes. What other end is there for you to achieve? O noble ones, do not grieve. He is ever beside you, for he is enshrined in your hearts. He has no father or mother, no wife, no son. There is none related to him and none who is a stranger. He has no birth and no body. He has manifested in this world of his own free will and not due to any bounds of karma, in order to bestow liberation on all. Though free from the gunas of Prakriti, he assumes these gunas for the sake of sport. Krishna, who is none other than the Supreme Being, is not your son alone. He is the child of all. He is the father of all. He is the mother of all. He is the soul of all. There is no entity that can be said to have an existence apart from him. This is how we transform, from the deity-based devotion to the cosmic soul level devotion. From the saguna to the nirguna. So Uddhava is not belittling the importance of the saguna form. That is why first word he said, you are the most praiseworthy among all mankind, for your minds are firmly fixed on Krishna. So initially we need an object. That is why Papa used to say, whenever devotees say, Papa, Papa, you are telling Papa, Papa, Papa is in your heart. He used to say, Papa is in your heart, God is in your heart. Sorry, Papa is in everybody, God is in everybody, you are in everybody. So he wants us to raise ourselves from the individual level to that level. So here it has been beautifully explained. O great ones, you are the most praiseworthy among all mankind, for your minds are firmly fixed on Krishna, who is none other than the Supreme Lord Narayana. He is the soul of all, the cause of all. He is the soul of all and the cause of all. What other end is there for you to achieve? And now he is trying to raise them. O noble ones, do not grieve. He is ever beside you, for he is enshrined in your heart. He has no father or mother, nor wife nor son. There is none related to him and none who is a stranger. none related and none who is a stranger. He has no birth and no body. He has manifested in this world of his own free will, not due to any bonds of karma in order to bestow, not due to any bounds of karma. He has manifested in this world of his own free will in order to bestow liberation on all. All of us have come and we have this body, we have this sense of individuality because of our past karma. In his case, it is not because of past karma, it was of his own will. Though free from the gunas of Prakriti, he assumes these gunas for the sake of sport. Leela. Krishna, who is none other than the Supreme Being, is not your son alone. That is why he is not belittling, no. You were thinking that he is your son. Yes, he is not your son alone. He is the child of all. He is the father of all. He is the mother of all. He is the soul of all. There is no entity that can be said to have an existence apart from him. Thus, while they were talking to him, of him, who was dearest to all their hearts, the night passed. Next morning, Uddhava set out to meet the Gopis. They took him off to where Radha was sitting beneath a tree, immersed in contemplation of her lover. She scarcely noticed him, nor did she pay such attention to the eager questions of the others. Ever absorbed in the memory of the days and nights of rapture she had spent with her beloved, she lived in a world of her own, peopled entirely by Krishna. Yeah. The others in the meantime were pelting Uddhava with 100 questions. They did not give him a chance to speak, for their hearts were full of the things they wanted to tell Krishna. And what better person could they tell it than his friend? They cared not for his prestige or erudition. The only worth he had in their eyes was that he had come from their Lord. Now you see their questions. Were you sent by that hard-hearted one to comfort his parents? Was the first question. He could never have sent you to comfort us, for surely he must have forgotten us after seeing the sophisticated beauties of the city. Where is he now? They are not hearing? They are hearing, you know.
Yes, we are able to hear. Yes, hearing.
Hearing, sir. Okay. That means you have forgotten Uddhava? Where is he now? Tell us the truth. Is he not in the arms of some damsel in the city of Mathura? Uddhava tried to stammer out a few words, but his studies had never taught him how to deal with the lovelorn. Then they started weeping and crying. How can we forget that body that has lain so close to us? How can we forget those arms that have held us so tightly? How can we forget those eyes that have gazed deep into ours? Those rose-petal hands that have stroked away our tears? Those tender lips from which we have sucked the nectar of divine life? Will we never be able to see him again? Will we able to hold him closer to our and touch his feet and feed him with the things he likes best? The only reason we do not die is because he is still alive. So long as there is hope of ever seeing him again, we can never give up our lives. Uddhava listened to this intimate monologue, astounded and bewildered. As yet, he was unable to decide what manner of women they were. He could not believe that they were loose and immoral, for such devotion is not to be found among the class of women, and he could not yet recognize the depth and extent of their devotion, for he had never seen the like before. To the gopis, they themselves did not exist as separate individuals. They existed in Krishna and for Krishna. They had started living only after meeting him, and in future they would continue to live only in the hope of hearing about him and maybe of meeting him. It was a total submerging of their separate personalities in him, who was the Uttama Purusha, or the perfect person. Though their bodies appeared to be different, yet in truth they had no existence apart from him. In all the aspects of their lives, whether mundane or exalted, they had but one thought: Krishna, 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 and then again Krishna. Whatever they saw was part of him. The breeze was his breath, the rose his lips, the sunset his clothes, and the clouds his color. They carried on their duties like automatons. Sometimes they would sing, sometimes laugh, sometimes cry, as different thoughts about Krishna came to their minds. Uddhava tried to speak to Radha, for he had heard Krishna mention her name many times, but she seemed oblivious to anything but his name. Then suddenly she saw a honey bee and started speaking to it as if it were a messenger from her beloved. Ah, honeysucker, you are like my Lord, going from flower to flower and owing allegiance to none. Leaving the flower the moment you have exhausted its nectar. Where have you come from? You have been sucking honey from his garland. And look, you have some red powder on your feelers. They must be from the forehead of some beauty from Mathura, which got into his garland while she embraced him. And now you have smeared it on yourself while sucking from his garland. Go away, I cannot bear the sight of you. Having made us drink again and again from the inebriating nectar of his lips, he has abandoned us, who have given up everything for his sake, our sons, our husbands, our homes, our prospects here and hereafter. Suddenly turning to Uddhava, she continued, we are the widows of Vrindavan. Bereft and forsaken are we, for our husband has left us, and now we will never be whole again. So saying, she buried her face in her hands, burst out crying. Uddhava marveled at the imagination, which was so immersed in thoughts about Krishna, and it could weave a story about him, even at the sight of a bumblebee. Radha's sorrow is the sorrow of the Bhakta, who realizes that God does not belong to her alone, but to everyone who loves him. It was a harder lesson for her than for others, because for a short time it had seemed to her that he was hers alone. Uddhava tried to comfort them. Listen, O gopis, you have attained the highest fulfillment of life, and the whole world must adore you, for you have succeeded in surrendering your minds completely to the Lord. Normally, people attain this state through the practice of many disciplines, vows, austerities, but even without any of these, I find in you an extraordinary manifestation of love for the divine, which is rare even among sages. Now listen to the message he has sent for you. O beloved ones, these are Krishna's words. I have never left you, will never leave you. You have never been separate from me, for I am manifest in the whole universe. If I have not come to see you, it is only because I have still to accomplish what I have come for. But do not grieve, for your grief is my grief, your joy is my joy. For love, such as yours, there can be no end. I, who am boundless, have been bound by your love. Krishna also from the cosmic level steps down, no? And comes to the individual level. Do not grieve, for your grief is my grief, your joy is my joy. For love such as yours, There can be no end. I who am boundless have been bound by your love. Blessed are you among women, for your names will ever be remembered by the world to come. When I am far away physically, meditate on me, thus you will be able to commune with me. Devoid of other thought, allow your minds to enter into me, all capital me, and then you will attain me without delay. These are some of the clues for the transition from the deity level or individual level to the higher level. When I am far away physically, meditate on me, capital M. Thus you will be able to commune with me, capital M. Devoid of other thought, allow your minds to enter into me, capital M. Then you will attain me, capital M, without delay. Hearing this, the Gopis' grief was slightly assuaged. They told Uddhava, O noble one, this river Kalindi, this mountain Govardhan, these forests, these cows, the sound of flutes, all these are indelibly connected in our minds with him. His footprints placed over these veils will never allow us to forget him. Our minds have been completely possessed by him. This is what Papa said yesterday, Ananya Bhakti. Completely possessed by him. So how can we possibly forget? O Lord, they cried. O Lord of Lakshmi, O Lord of Vraja, dispeller of sorrows, master of Gokul, be kind enough to lift up this settlement of ours, which is fast sinking into the sea of sorrow. At this heart-rending cry, Uddhava reminded them of Krishna's message and their identity with him in spirit. To comfort them and his parents, he stayed on in Vraja for some months, during which he thrilled the whole community with songs and poems about Krishna's deeds. What was more important was the lesson he learned from them, namely that love such as this was superior even to knowledge. Before he left Vraja, Uddhava, the foremost of the Yadavas, brightest student of Brihaspati, prostrated himself in the dirt at the feet of the cowherd girls of Vrindavan, extolled them thus, "You are indeed the only one who have attained the real purpose of human birth. For you have attained the Mahabhava, or extreme yearning for Govinda, the soul of all, which is aspired to by all, but attained by very few. Of what use is his birth in a high social milieu? Of what use is money or status or beauty if it does not bring this intense love for the infinite being? Yet, by his grace, you humble nomads of the forest have been blessed with this state. Love for God produces the same results irrespective of one's learning or social status. Not even Lakshmi, the consort of Vishnu, has received the grace that has been showered on the gopis of Vrindavan. May I be born as a boar or a creeper or even a blade of grass in this blessed spot which is covered with the dust of the feet of these gopis who have burst asunder the unbreakable bond of love for their own relations and even the path of virtue approved by society to follow the way of the divine, which is only an aspiration even for the sages. Again and again do I salute at the feet of these women of Vraja, whose mental attitude purifies the three worlds. That's why Papa is never tired of bringing these gopis love. Even in the small book, Thus Speaks Ramdas, one chapter is on gopis love. Probably we think why as an individual, no? Without any scriptures, without any vradas, without any penance, ordinary simple people who were able to raise themselves to the highest level by merging themselves completely in Him. Very difficult for us even to conceive that, you know, because in us the otherness always comes. This was indeed an amazing statement for any man to make in those times, especially as one as learned as Uddhava. It proclaimed the glory of bhakti above all other paths to God realization, which is what the life of Krishna teaches us. At last, bidding farewell to the gopis and Nanda and Yashoda, Uddhava got into his chariot to return to Mathura. The meeting of the gopis with Uddhava was like the mingling of the two rivers of bhakti and jnana, or devotion and knowledge. Uddhava's knowledge flowed into the gopis, strengthened their minds, while their bhakti seeped into Uddhava's heart, melted his pride. Beautiful. Uddhava's knowledge flowed into the gopis, strengthened their minds, while their bhakti seeped into Uddhava's heart and melted his pride. The result of the confluence was the Jnana Bhakta, a rare combination. It was only now that Uddhava realized that why Krishna had sent him, not merely to comfort the gopis. Besides, it was only now that Uddhava realized that Krishna had sent him not merely to comfort the gopis, but to show him an example of a truly exalted and unselfish love. Poor Uddhava, little did he realize, as he waved goodbye to the weeping gopis, that one day he too would have to part from his beloved master. Only at that time would he be able to understand fully the anguish felt by the gopis. Krishna never returned from Mathura to Vrindavan. It is as if he wants to teach a lesson that life is an ever-rolling wheel of time. This is something which we all have to ponder now. The wise person is the one who, like the child, lives entirely in the present, unburdened by the memories of the past, however sweet, unworried by the prospects of the future, however dark. Beautiful. The wise person is the one who, like the child, lives entirely in the present, unburdened by the memories of the past, however sweet, unworried by the prospects of the future, however dark. Krishna's life became that of a prince and the advisor of princes, though he never accepted the throne himself. Henceforth he lived in the palaces and courts and council chambers of monarchs with as much ease and grace as he had lived in the hills and dales and forests of Vrindavan. It is said that on one occasion, unable to bear their separation from Krishna, gopis and gopas made a great pilgrimage to the city. It was the time of the harvest festival, when the earth lies fallow for a while, so the people may rest. When he heard they had come, he had them brought with all state and dignity into the audience chamber, meant for kings. Krishna received them with the greatest of love, dressed in the robes and jewels of a prince, but the rustics would not look at him. Gopis would not look at him. With eyes cast on the ground, heads averted, they stood there, the gopas and gopis of Vrindavan, uttering not one word, casting not one glance in the direction of the prince who stood before them, overwhelming them with his magnificence. Then Krishna understood what the matter was, and going out of their presence for a moment, he put off the robes and jewels of the state, came back to them clad in the simple attire of the cowards. On his head was the tiny circlet with the peacock's feather. In his right hand he carried the flute. Round his neck was the garland of wildflowers, Vanamala, and his feet were bare. When they saw him like this, in the form of Gopala Krishna, the cowherd Krishna, they were overjoyed. They begged him to play the flute for them, and they romped and frolicked and sang all day with him in the royal gardens, even as they used to do in the meadows and woods of Vrindavan. Recalling the happy days of the past, they reminded him of his boyhood pranks and the Lord who played and danced with them with as much abandon and as much skill as he played the game of a kingmaker. And then, now, before we close, it will be better if we hear how Uddhava, no? He says here, little did he realize, as he waved a goodbye to the weeping gopis, that one day he too would have to part from his beloved master. Only at that time would he be able to understand fully the anguish felt by the gopis. How many times we have read, but still so many questions he asked, because when Krishna announced that the time has come for him to depart from the body and become one with the cosmic soul, Uddhava started asking so many questions. Krishna answered everything. Every time he will say, this is not possible for me, this is not possible for me. So Krishna smiled tenderly at him and replied, until my advent, O Uddhava, an immersion on the Ganga was supposed to eradicate all sins. But now, an immersion in the holy story of my life is enough to cleanse the sins of 1,000 lifetimes. The one who listens to the story of my life, who narrate it or explain it to others, will sanctify themselves as well as their listeners. Srimad Bhagavatam. If even this is too difficult, O Uddhava, take a dip in the flowing river of my names. If even this is too difficult, hearing the story, O Uddhava, take a dip in the flowing river of my names. Dip in the river, no? Then the whole body, when we take a dip in the river, the whole body is covered by water, no? Think. So our Nama chanting should be such that the entire thing, right from the whole body is permeated with his name. O Uddhava, the chanting of my name alone is enough to attain liberation. My names are not difficult to learn like the Vedic mantras, which are reserved for the favored few. They can be enjoyed and repeated by anyone, regardless of birth or sex. Sweeter than honey is my name, giving bliss to those who utter it, as well as those who hear it. It is the ripe, juicy fruit of the Vedas. Like a calf following its mother, I myself will follow the ones who call on my name, in order to see that no harm comes to them. So this mental background should be there while we chant, Otherwise we will not feel. Though he is following us, we will not feel. Just like he is within us, we are not feeling his presence. Only when the spiritual preceptor tells us that he is there, behind your very words, behind your breathing, behind your heartbeat, behind your digestion, behind your thoughts, then only we start slowly realizing and take to inward journey to realize. So similarly, we should know that when we chant the name, he is following us, he is taking care of us. But when we forget this, we don't eke out the real benefit. I might thus listening to the tales of my life and chanting my names, you will definitely be victorious over death itself. After studying this discourse, there is nothing more for a spiritual aspirant to inquire about and understand, just as after taking honey, there is nothing sweeter for one to drink. Being thus instructed by the Lord, Uddhava stood speechless for a while, conscious of the great blessing that the Holy One had bestowed on him. With great effort, he controlled his mind, which had been overpowered by emotion. His voice choking with surging waves of love, his eyes overflowing with tears. He said, when you have departed from this mortal coil, O Lord, where will I find you? Where will I seek for you? Who is asking? Uddhava, who gave a lecture to Gopis, that he is there in your heart. The Holy One replied, go to my temples. O Uddhava, I will be residing there. And if you are in doubt as to where my temples are situated, I tell you, my temples are in the hearts of my devotees. Therefore, go where my devotees congregate. Wherever you hear my name chanted, my stories recited, there I will also be. Therefore, seek me among my devotees, for through them I will ever manifest myself in this world. Bhaktottamas. Uddhava remained silent, speechless, with grief at the thought of the imminent parting. The Lord looked at him with infinite tenderness and asked, my beloved one, have I convinced you? Have you heard enough? Are your doubts cleared? With the sobs choking his voice, eyes brimming with tears, Uddhava spoke, O Supreme Preceptor, your very proximity has removed my delusion born of ignorance. Just as a burning fire dispels the darkness, cold, and fear of those who sit next to it, you have lighted the lamp of knowledge in the dark recesses of my mind. You have ignited the unquenchable flame of your divine name in my heart. You have broken asunder my strong bond of attachment to my kinsmen. You have permeated my entire being so that nothing other than you exists for me anymore. What can I offer you who have given me my all? What gift can I place before you? You are the giver of all gifts. Therefore, do I place myself as an offering at your lotus feet, O Lord? I have nothing else to give you. So saying, he prostrated full length before that soul of compassion, and catching hold of his lotus feet, he cried out, prostrations to you, O Master Yogi. I have surrendered at your lotus feet. I have no other refuge but you. Bless me with deep and undying devotion to these, your feet. Wherever I may wander, whatever I may do, Let my mind run to you every second, every minute, and feel for you that love which is eternal and indestructible. Wherever I may wander, whatever I may do, let my mind run to you, capital U, not the small u. Let my mind run to you every second, every minute, and feel for you that love which is eternal and indestructible. Uddhava lay on the ground like a fallen log, unable to rise up, unable to do anything, but bathed the Lord's feet with his tears. The Holy One laid his hands firmly on the bowed head, blessed him. He then gently helped him to rise up, gave his final instruction, O Uddhava, I direct you to go to the famous place of pilgrimage in the Himalayas known as Badrikashrama, which is specially sanctified by my presence. There flows the river Alagananda, the very sight of which is purifying, wearing clothes made of bark, subsisting on roots and fruits, free from all desire for worldly enjoyments, live without caring for the extremes of climate, putting up patiently with all the adverse situations that might confront you, ponder deeply in solitude over that which I have taught you, with speech and thought ever absorbed in me, live according to the dictates of the Bhagavata Dharma I have taught you, and you will quickly pass through these material realms and attain to my transcendent state. Instructed thus by that Holy One, Uddhava circumambulated his dearest master and placed his head once more at his feet. Though his mind had transcended the three gunas, the thought of leaving his beloved master and going to Badrinath produced such waves of agony in his heart that it expressed itself in torrential tears which flowed down his cheeks, washed the Lord's holy feet. With his mind stricken at the thought of the imminent separation from the dearest Lord, he found it impossible to move from the place, stood rooted to the spot, gazing at that well-loved face as if he could not bear to tear his eyes. The Lord, understanding his predicament, spoke, Dearer to me than my sons, dearer to me than my wives are you, O Uddhava, for you are the shining examples of the Jnana Bhakta. You have fettered me to yourself with the bonds of your intense love. Yet the time has now come for our bodies to part, for they are made of the five elements, must return to them. My faithful friend, and do as I have instructed you. Seeing Uddhava still reluctant, he continued, In my previous incarnation as Rama, when I had to part from my beloved brother Bharata, I had given him my footwear. Like you, he could not bear to be parted from me. Now I will give them to you, my dear friend, for they have been attached to my feet, the ultimate goal of all devotees. Take them, therefore, and proceed to Badrikashrama, for I have no further use for them. Reverently, Uddhava accepted this precious gift. With tears streaming from his eyes, he addressed them, who? The sandals, O divine Padukas, do not think too harshly of me for being the cause of by which you have been forced to separate from these lotus feet. Forgive me. Taste once more of the perfume of these tender feet, and then let us depart. So saying, he placed them once more tenderly beneath the Lord's blessed feet, and then holding them with great reverence on his head, he circumambulated the divine presence once more. With eyes blinded by tears, he tore himself away with many a backward glance. Only now did he experience the bitter anguish suffered by the Gopis of Vrindavan so many years ago. When he turned around for the last time, he saw Krishna's eyes following him. And for the first time, he saw a glimmer of tears in those lustrous eyes. He ran back, fell at his feet once more. The Lord said nothing, but gently placed his foot on Uddhava's bent head and thus passed on to him his supreme wisdom. Then tenderly he lifted up his face, placed his lips on his forehead, gently turned him round toward the direction in which he had to go. Uddhava was filled with an inexpressible joy, and he felt replete. At the end of the path, he turned around and saw the Lord shining from afar, heard gentle music playing in there. Up in the sky, he saw celestial beings folding their palms in adoration. An ineffable peace stole into his heart. At the beatific vision, so filled his being that he felt as if there were no difference between him and Krishna. The divine beings were singing hymns in praise of him as well. Without any conscious volition, without feeling the heavy burden of his body, Uddhava, the great Bhakta, proceeded northward, reached the holy shrine of Badrikashrama in the Himalayas. There he spent the rest of his days in the manner prescribed by his dear master, and thus attained to the eternal abode. So this is how, Papa always talks about Gopis Bhakti, and through that, he now made us aware of, through the Uddhava, through the words of Uddhava. And here, he saw the tears in the Lord's eyes also. All these things we have to keep on reading once in a way, because these are the things which explain to us what is the real love. It is not the love at the body level, at the individual level. It is the merging of the souls. But at the same time, in order that it is not dry, the Lord himself permits himself to be adored like this, and he also responds to it. He is not a stony hearted. When we say he is compassionate, Karunamayan, Dayalu, Kripalu, when all these words we say, it is not really merely words. We understand those meaning of those words when we hear these things. When Uddhava could not resist, when he could not contain, so too Krishna also could not contain. So we are praying to him. Tulsidas. Jnana and bhakti. Otherwise it becomes, we may not be able to really benefit by it.
But this bhakti is
super. Papa wants every one of us to have that jnana bhakti.
We are all, Gopi, and Swamiji is Lord incarnate.
Anyhow, it is very touching. Every time when we read, what wells up in our mind, we cannot explain.
Today was wonderful, Swamiji. Really, there are equals in that.
Super.
Touching.
Glory to him for facilitating everything for us. Hari Om. See how yesterday he made us to read those portions. He made a devotee to immediately send an email asking us to read this particular portion. And that we saw only at 3:40. And immediately we asked for this book. The book was available readily. And
What is the name of the book, Swamiji?
Sri Krishna Leela
Krishna Leela.
by
Available?
by Vanamari. It's a class.
It's available?
It is available. It is available. You have to write to them.
Elsewhere?
You can also try through Amazon.
Amazon. I got through Amazon, Swamiji.
Vanamali Guita Yogashram.
She got through Amazon.
Yeah, it is possible. It is a wonderful book. She has also written about Sri Ramalila, no?
Ramalila, Shiva Leela.
So this was their first book, Sri Krishna Leela. As soon as it was sent to us, we started reading in the Satsang, and it was thrilling. Then she came here. She is a great bhakta. When we went to Rishikesh, sometime 10 or 15 years or 20 years back, she wanted us to go to her ashram. And we saw, same as now we see the gopis, so much of bhakti, Krishna, Krishna, Krishna. But at the same time, it was not at the individual level. She was also a Jnana Bhakta. Anyway, more about it tomorrow. Hari Om. We are deeply, deeply, deeply grateful to Papa for facilitating all these wonderful opportunities for us to remember him in a way that touches our heart, that kindles in our heart. Waves and waves of love. Hari Om. Om Shri Ram Jai Ram Jai Jai Ram Om Shri Ram Jai Ram Jai Jai Ram Om. Om Shri Ram Jai Ram Jai Jai Ram Om Shri Ram Jai Ram Jai Jai Ram Om. Shri Ram Jai Ram Jai Jai Ram Om Shri Ram Jai Ram Jai Jai Ram